Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Tiff and Justin here at Friends with Death Benefits.
Hi.
I've been watching Tiger King, but nothing is more exciting than talking about, death. And actually, this month we're talking about Pride. And so in the studio today, we have Brandon, who is a Black gay man in America. And we're going to be talking about his experience with that lifestyle, that culture, and a little bit about his mom. He lost when he was 13. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Tiff, good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've reached a pocket of okayness.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm feeling good.
Sometimes pockets are big, sometimes they're small.
That's right. I'm wearing men's jeans in the pockets, and these are amazing.
You're in it. It doesn't matter the size of the pocket. It's that you're currently in the pocket.
That I am in the pocket.
That's the important part.
And I'm okay with that. And I'm gonna relish.
Look at you over there with a smile and your red bandana and your matching earrings, having a good day. It's crazy.
I am. Just felt colorful today.
Good.
Woke up just feeling.
We'll see how it goes.
Great. Yeah. Let's see how quickly that spirals.
Yeah, let's see how sharp of a left turn we're going to take here tonight.
Oh, you know what? I wanted to tell you, I know we talked about it a little bit, but so I went and saw a medium last week.
Yeah.
And I happened across this woman on a job. I went there to bid out a job at her place, and she does tarot readings. And I wanted to approach her, just ask questions about it, like every person she probably encounters. And I thought, no, I'm not going to be that douchebag. I'm going to wait until if I happen to come back here, if she calls me back to come back, I'll ask her about it then. Then I'll know the universe brought me back here and I should do it and whatever. And so that's exactly what happened. And then I ended up scheduling an appointment with her and sat down and had like a little one-on-one with her, she does like mediumship and tarot readings and angel readings, and I don't know what all of those really entail, but so just kind of wanted to see if it was possible to try to connect with somebody from the other side. And she said, and she's just the most abrasive old woman. And that's how I knew that she was the real deal, because she's just like, I don't want this gift. I didn't ask for this, kind of one of those, and so when I got there for my appointment, she's like, so what do you want? And I was like, I don't know. I kind of want tarot, because tarot is a view into like the next 6 months of your life. So, but I said, if I'm being honest, I'm just really selfish, and I want to see if maybe we can reach Ethan, my son. And she said, oh, you had a son who passed away. Or you had a son who passed away? And I said, yeah, just in September. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that, because your sister has not left me alone since the moment I met you.
And you're sure that you didn't mention your sister at all?
I'm dead. I'm sure. Okay. I'm sure. No,
that's something I
usually don't talk about my dead sister when I'm trying to sell windows. I found that it doesn't really help my sales process.
I feel like it would be a really good closer if you felt like you were losing the sale.
Ooh, all right. I'll put that into play this week.
I mean, I think she'd be cool with you.
Yeah. So anyway, needless to say, the experience was really good. Just in kind of making a friend. She's just a loopy, great lady, and I'm actually going back this week to have my tarot read. So we'll see what the future.
And here's where it gets weird.
Yes.
And like most of our friendship has been, weird coincidences. So as everything Tiff just said, she messaged me and was telling me about, and the lady's in town and does what she does and is abrasive and all this stuff. And she told me the lady's first name, and I immediately knew. I let her finish her story, but I immediately knew that hopefully everyone, it's obviously not everyone, but it's a very rare thing, I think, and a cool thing to have friends like well into your life that you've known like your whole life. And there's a couple dudes I've known since at least like kindergarten that are still in my life. Like some of them live here, some of them don't, but I still talk to them even if they don't. And a very, very good friend of mine who lives in Kansas now, his mother is this woman.
Yeah.
And their house was 5 blocks from my house, and we hung out, and he was the kid that when we first got our driver's licenses. We weren't invited to any parties, so one of us would decide who would drive, and we'd just drive around Mason City all night till we ran out of gas with nothing to do. And
that's cool.
listening to music and just buddies, and always have been. And he went into the Marines right out of high school, and he did 4 years with the Marines and left and came home and was working as a mechanic and got bored and tried to go back to the Marines, and they told him you have to start over. And he's like, I'm not going through boot camp again. So he went to the Army, and they're like, "What? You're a 4-year Marine, front of the line, buddy." Oh. So he did 4 years in the Army, ended up doing like 3 tours, and he's a total hard ass, skeptic, smart mouth, like as cynical as I am. This dude's like, he could make me blush. And I asked him flat out, I go, because he would tell me, I go, do you think there's something to what your mom does? Do you believe in it? And part of me expected him to be like, dude, I humor her, but it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Not at all. He's completely confident that she's telling the truth. Mm-hmm. It's real. He said that she would have moments through their whole childhood where she would be aware of things that none of them were, and she didn't really get it. And she said that the more she looked into it and what being a medium is, the more it came out.
Yeah.
And
I knew I saw a medium right after I lost Ethan. My aunt took me to, and it was kind of put on. It was kind of hokey and things. But I do believe that people do have those spiritual gifts. But I knew as soon as I met this woman, the moment we connected, there was something about her that was just like, she can't help but be authentic. It's almost.
Do you want something like to use when you go back? That because as far as
you want me to pretend to be a medium
does she realize?
On her?
No, let me ask you: does she? Because you had said that I came up. I'm assuming because you talked about how you thought I should.
Oh yeah, I just said I have a friend who lost her.
But obviously that connection wasn't made, or you would have told me.
Right.
When you go back and see her, just be like, do you like Aerosmith at all? She is like borderline psycho obsessed with Steven Tyler.
No way.
Like in love with him, would drink his bathwater. Like
okay.
And so use that. It'll blow her mind. And then you can explain if you want how you know that.
Right.
But that'll make for a fun moment. But
she'll probably be like, oh my gosh, we're kidding.
She went in on me one time. I told her that I thought he looked like an Indian princess that was melting. And in his older age, and she just was swearing at me on Facebook. You Paulson, you dipshit,
Are you serious?
You punk bitch. Like she called me a punk bitch.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Oh my gosh.
Serious. You don't talk about Steven.
And let me just describe. I mean, she's probably like, $120. She's got longer
and all her
gray
kids
hair.
look just like her.
Oh yeah,
she
did have a son that was there briefly when I was there this last time, but she just is kind of this meek looking woman from a distance, and then you kind of get up to her and she just has this kind of snarl about her that I just appreciate so much. Yep. And I don't know if it's because it was
very North End Charming when I was a child.
Yeah, North End Charm.
Yeah, they had internet before my mom would get it, so I'd go over there and get on MSN Messenger and just sweet talk girls that I didn't know from like Canada. Just real nice guy.
I can't wait to have this conversation with her.
Yeah.
Oh,
she knows me well for sure.
So that was my.
That's
but ever since then. And maybe I'm just riding the, the mania right now. But I feel kind of at peace and a little bit. And even if it's only just temporary, I'm good with it.
Doesn't make for good podcast. If what's bugging you? Come on, there's got to be some sad in there.
Well, can we chip away at that as we go? Okay.
Right.
How about you? How are you?
I'm all right. I surprisingly had a lot of I miss my mom moments during Father's Day.
Oh yeah.
I took I'm just a real great dude all around. I don't know for those that don't know me personally, but I'm very thoughtful, a good listener. I made my dad a gift basket for Father's Day, and this is so dysfunctional, but I went and bought all the snacks that I remember him buying and feeding us and eating with us on his every other weekends when he was court ordered to have us. Those weekends away from mom's, away from my AC and my video games, I would spend those weekends at dad's, and we would eat shit like bugles and chicken and a biscuit. Ooh. And just a bunch of random, real just redneck snacks. And so I made him just this cornucopia of dysfunctional parenting and took it to him.
Aww.
And that was fine. Yeah. We had, I saw him, we get along fine. It's whatever. We don't hang out a lot. But I found more of the day, I'm just really thinking about my mom a lot.
Yeah.
And it's that seems weird, but you kind of, when I told you that, you're she kind of was she was both.
She was.
She was,
Totally.
like I was a mama's boy. It was,
Mm-hmm.
she did it all. She did all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the stuff that, shouldn't pertain,
Mm-hmm.
it does subconsciously, I guess. And
But
didn't expect that.
You made a really good point today when we were talking that you said we're in the clear for holidays.
Yeah, not
for
just
a
for
little bit.
work, but for our mental health.
For our mental health, we get a little bit of a respite. Like 4th of July, I mean, you can kind of choose to either be.
You know
in it
what?
or
Even
not.
for people that lost immediate family members to tragedy, if you can't get down with some fireworks and hot dogs, I mean, just fucking suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Make a damn s'more and get over it yourself.
The official stance on 4th of July from Friends with Death Benefits is just fucking enjoy it. All right,
Yeah.
Come on, take a day,
Try it up.
blow something up.
Nothing makes me feel better than
Barbecue something.
setting fires.
It's my favorite. I have two favorite holidays.
Yeah.
4th of July and WrestleMania. It's a holiday. We can off air. We can argue it. We don't have time. But I throw a pretty big party for both.
When is WrestleMania?
Usually the end of March, first weekend of April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hot damn.
It was COVID. It was weird.
Yeah.
But when people come back, it's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
be fun again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be huge.
It was Depresslemania.
So last week I listened back to the episode with Kathy and Nicole. Such an amazing
It was a good one. We had a
interview.
good talk. I learned a lot.
I learned a lot too. I always do. From anybody who is living in a different reality than me, there's just so much to learn. Me and Kyle were just talking about this when we were walking the dogs about how in the wake of the George Floyd thing last year was really, I think it was an awakening for a lot of people, but just personally, it really sent me into a spiral of like wokeness or whatever. And I hate to use that kind of buzzword, but
I'm still pretty drowsy, but I'm getting woke up
Yeah,
more woke
yeah.
as I go. I feel like.
but there's a lot still to be unpacked and a lot to learn. And anytime you have a cross conversation with somebody who's completely different than you and living in a different reality, I think you can always learn something. And if you're choosing not to learn anything, then you're choosing the side of ignorance. So in following good fashion, and we mentioned on Kathy and Nicole's episode that we were going to be interviewing a black gay man.
Which I thought, no way do you know. You got one? You have one?
I found the
You know
unicorn.
him?
I found him. He's here. His name's Brandon. Say hi, Brandon.
Hello.
So happy to have you.
Black UK
He's-
unicorn.
He's the black unicorn. That would be magical.
Sounds like a porn name, but sure.
Oh, the black.
That
The
could
black
work.
unicorn.
Ooh, and spiky. Sounds spiky.
Spiky.
Sounds spiky. I don't know. So very excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Young, visceral young man.
Ugh.
Who's just living life in North Iowa. What is that like?
Again, still working on that book
Yeah.
called Living in Mason City. I always joke around how I'm going to write a book called, or Living in North Iowa, a gay black man's perspective. Because, I'm getting ready to move here. So I've been reflecting a lot on like what my time has been here, especially during the wake of George Floyd, because my time here has, been a lot of that. And honestly, best of times, worst of times, it's taught me a lot about being an adult. Friends like you have taught me about things that I feel like I need to be done with by a certain time, but then I meet people who are older than me or further along in life and realize that it's okay for me to still be going through these things. So I think Mason City was a time for me. I thought I was watching other people and learning from other people, but at the same time, I feel like I've been the one gay person or the one black person in the room for so long that I've taught a lot of people too,
yes.
So it's been rough, but I refuse to, take any year of my life that I chose to live and be like, oh, it sucked because, it's my choice to, make it suck but
In the middle of this last year, were there moments where you wish that you didn't live here?
Oh,
You
yeah.
didn't, yeah.
because and I know you guys probably have talked about grief to death, but no pun intended.
Yeah.
But at times it's just like I don't want to be the educator anymore, you know? Like, how can it be like, you know, losing someone and then immediately doing a TED talk about grief, you know? Like, how
Mm,
do you do that? Like, I
sure.
want to take my time to process what was going on in America. Um, and I think back to like how I saw everyone protesting the first, you know, few days, and I couldn't really do it yet, you know, because I
Hmm.
was still like, whoa, this just happened. And I was still in the spot of looking you know, on Facebook and doing the endless scrolling and seeing people's perspective because everybody had one at that time.
Sure.
Um and so it took me, I had to get through that, and then something set in where it's like, this could be me. This, and then it got really personal and relatable, and I started thinking about how closely we live to Minnesota and things like that. Like, and then I started having like this moment where I'm like, the whole thing's going on in the world, but like nobody's talking about the aftermath of it. Like, I get that we're angry about police, but at some point, like, it became kind of detached about the emotion and became more political, and I just felt really bad for like their actual families
Mm,
and their actual, the mothers and the sisters of people that were actually mourning, rather than it just being injustice, you know?
right.
Like for a second, like, let's not make it political and just make it emotional, and like, this is something that's hard to go through.
Mm,
And that hurt me more, like the fact that stories weren't being told, perspectives weren't being heard, because we were choosing to make it a political thing
mm.
before a personable thing, you know? I knew more about the instance and about things that had happened years later with racial injustice than I did about George, you know?
Right.
But I was saying his name, you know?
Right.
But it's like I wasn't actually processing that, like, if when my mom passed away, if people were marching out in the streets about it, I don't know how I'd feel. Like, is this
r-
even what they want? Or, you
Right.
know?
Oh yeah.
So questions like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what is this an emotion or a series of emotions that you've had on more than one occasion because you're watching people of color be murdered? Is there a grieving process that happens for you every time?
Yeah, I think for me now, I mean, I've always related to black men, especially, but I start to see more stories about people deeper into the LGBT community, and then it's like a whole nother spiral because it's like a whole nother layer of, or subset of grief. Um, and that I've been kind of processing more, but I'll be honest, I think I've become desensitized to the cop shoots black guy thing, you know?
Okay.
But right now, and don't get me wrong, I still, it's very much a thing that is happening, and it's something that I always am going to be actively expressing my discomfort with. But like right now, for some reason, when I see like trans people going missing and then showing up dead, or trans people being killed or by the police or people we're supposed to trust in any fashion, and that's really hurting now.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay,
Okay.
this isn't going to be over. Like, even if we get to the point where, you know, it's like
Mhm.
there's always going to be some group of people to be hurting for, you know, it
Yeah.
seems like.
Yeah. And like we've talked about this specifically, like the last time we had a conversation, you said something that I thought was really profound. As a gay man and as a gay, as a gay black man, that it's been your time for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, but for the trans community and other, non-binary, specifically trans community, it's just sort of coming to the surface now.
right, right.
And so,
Well, I think, because I don't want to say coming to this, I think people just are, with social media, people are getting the other perspective.
yeah, becoming more aware.
Right. But like, my thing now is like, I think that it's very important to me. I will always care about, you know, racial injustice. But like you said, I know that there are people who can substitute my body or substitute my voice in those efforts, you know? But
Hmm.
I don't feel comfortable with the amount of people, you know, speaking about trans issues or LGBT issues. That's part of me as much as it is being African American.
Hmm.
So I have to exercise that part of myself too, you know?
Hmm.
It's like I forget about that sometimes. Like, I'm like, you know,
Hmm.
they still need me, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And, something that, obviously as a white woman, I wasn't really aware of until, I just kind of got shook awake, just in the last couple of years, was the gay movement really was started by trans Black
Yeah.
women,
Yeah.
and that I don't know why that was just so shocking to me.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing.
Marsha P. Johnson, Kelly Mayback, like a lot of those people, again, like you said, you're just now like hearing about it, but there's a lot of Black history we've heard about since the beginning. So it's like equal importance, but the ratio of what's in history books or the ratio of what's being taught, I think it'll be a long time before people even say something like that in a classroom, which is huge because that's where we learn everything. But more importantly, if I'm having a hard time articulating what I'm trying to say without I don't want to sound dismissive of Black people because I am, Black, but like this is just living proof that there's disproportionate, and it makes me upset, because they've gone through the same things as us, or they've cried for government's attention since the AIDS epidemic, they've been ignored, so I'm tapping into another sad part of myself.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You literally you drew the worst hand possible. And I mean, as much as I adore you with every fiber of, I feel so bad for you because you are an outcast in so many different demographics, because gay men or homosexuals aren't always accepted in the Black community.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like it frustrates me. Like, one, I want to go, before we go any further, I do want to say that the things that have made my life super hard have also made my life very great. Like, I'm also, I love that about myself. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, geez, I wish the cards weren't so stacked.
Right. Yeah.
But
for sure.
It hurts me a lot to see that, like, growing up, when I when I truly understood what the AIDS epidemic was, it probably came when I first came out to my mom, and then some things that she told me about, like the AIDS epidemic, how to, I might be bullied in school, things like that. Just all things that a heterosexual woman knows how to tell her son who just came out. It's just like, Mom, I'm not going to get AIDS, okay? I'm 12. But I think, like, trying to get I remember trying, like, going and running, telling my brother, like, this is super interesting information. And my brother was like, okay. And that's kind of been like the response that I've gotten from a lot of Black men in my community about my issues, or about, like, I have a friend, I was telling about how I have another friend who's, like, being kicked out because of the whole cliche I'm gay thing. She's homeless, and she's trans, and it's just like there's a lack of, like, in Black, trans and Black she is. There's, like, a lack of acknowledging that they're still a part of us, and I think that destroys
a part
people.
of us, meaning a part of the Black
community. Yeah, and I think that a lot of young Black people commit suicide because of the discomfort and rejection from their own family, because deep down I feel like we know it's all there, that our parents, like, might reject us, but I think that people have been in such scary places with family that they don't realize how hard it would get, or hearing, oh no, I don't approve of it, is something that you might think of, but then you actually, start to feel it from your family, and it's like, wow, if not you guys, then who else? And then it's like, what is life right now?
Right.
Well, everything you've come to know, it's like, it's gone because of this one part about yourself. And then, I don't know, I empathize with that. I was fortunate enough to have family who supported me because, one, it was something that they already have always known, but, like, seeing friends hurt themselves in school because they have family that might be disapproving of them is hurtful. It's like, that's your family. And anytime that, whether it be your family or the Black community or people that you have assumed would support you and they don't, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
It's the ground, being ripped beneath you.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of what people don't realize, like, how intense that really is. Like, as, like, having lost my mom, like, in, like, a very real, like, she's, passed away. I've have to imagine that like coming out and then having like a relative, especially when you're very close with, disown you is like pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
losing,
Oh, yeah.
and you know what I mean? And it's like,
Anytime the thought of somebody, whether they tell you something revealing about themselves, me, it's always like when somebody is like, oh, I'm this party, I'm like, whoa, you're what? You know? But anytime you think of somebody some way and then they show themselves to you and it's not the person that you've known your whole life, yeah, that's loss.
Yeah.
You're still grieving the loss of
Oh,
something,
yeah.
you know?
Yes.
Or
And-
for broken up friendships or,
mhm.
you know,
to have someone and then not, for just simply like being honest with them, and
Yeah.
like, and then that's just like, you're just supposed to be like, okay, like that person that was part of my life isn't now,
yeah.
you know? And it's like,
Oof.
it's one thing, and it's funny because you get both sides of that. You know, we can get into that in a bit, but you lost your mother,
Yeah.
and so you know what it's like to lose someone to death. But also, I assume you said you've had a fairly supportive family, but
Yeah.
just the, you know what I mean, that experience of like, even I've met people now that like have had family members disown them for not being into Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like I know a lady who's not allowed to see her grandkids or communicate with her daughter anymore. Like and she's like, I feel like my grandkids and my daughter passed away. She's like, I'm mourning my whole family. And for gay people, I have to assume it's a similar experience sometimes.
I would definitely agree, and I think it's crazy how many stories I've heard like that. Or we have a mutual friend whose family, it's the opposite of that. You know, it's the same thing. You know, she was the one that defended bigotry in the family, and then got kind of outcasted because of it. And it's just like the simplest topics, you know, can change your whole perspective of your family, or just show you, wow, all because I voted for this person, or all because of
something else.
And it's loss. It's still
Yeah,
loss.
it
Because
is.
anytime your relationship stops from that person, it doesn't matter if the reason is because they're, you know, they've passed away, or the reason, you're still not the same.
I just can't, and I don't have any like close family, and to be honest, not a ton of gay friends. I have a couple, but like I can't imagine like that, like for me personally, like loving someone and then finding something that out about them and then just deciding I'm not gonna love that person anymore. Like for me personally, I mean, obviously it's a very real thing, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like because you love who you love, and I don't think that that's right, I'm gonna not love you anymore. Like that seems just wild to me.
Had a friend who I lost, like, not blatantly told me it was because of, you know, me being gay, but you could kind of feel it, you know. And I told my other friend about it, and then she said, well, you know, he wasn't your friend in the first place. And I don't believe that. Like, it's not like a fake friend, real friend thing, because what you had with that person was real before.
Right.
They just didn't know you. So it was real, because you get what I'm saying? In a way it was, but until you reveal that side to yourself, that's why people often feel like they lied to me, or, you know, and it's not the same thing. Or people, for example, who break up because they've found out their husband or wife was gay, they often like feel lied to, you know, and you're like, was anything ever real? I think it was, but it wasn't, you know, so you kind of have to dissect.
I'm sure every
was anything we
situation
had
is-
was real, or you know.
Depends on the person, I'd imagine, but I mean, yeah, that's an interesting.
But at the end of the day, it's still loss, and it's still painful
Right.
to not continue what you had before. But I don't, now looking back on that situation with my friend, it's like I wasn't fully myself either at that point. You know, I definitely was code switching to a point where it was like I probably needed to break away to become who I really was.
Sure.
So I want to backtrack a little bit. When we were talking about, you know, the education portion of, you know, me not knowing until I was, you know, well into my 30s of how the gay movement started with trans Black women and that sort of thing. How does a gay Black man get educated on that? Because we know, like, our education system is so whitewashed. I don't know much about Black history, so it's not unusual for me to not know these things,
Yeah.
right? Where do you get your education from?
I think mostly from friends, seeing people be dragged through the comments on social media and learning from that and never wanting to be that guy.
Okay.
But most of the time, yeah, close encounters with friends, or just everything on my half. I feel like it'd be more how do I say, it'd be more weird for me not to have heard about it because of people who are oppressed kind of already grouped together. So for me to go through my whole life without knowing a trans person would be really unlikely. But most of my education does come, I feel like, from personal experiences. And I have a great friend who I can ask questions comfortably with without getting canceled. You know, like I have people I feel like I can talk to, but feel like sometimes I have people I can talk to and walk on eggshells with.
Yes.
But her, I'm just like, I know this is going to sound fucked up, but how do you feel about this?
Yeah.
And it's those uncomfortable moments where it's like, oh, and I'm still learning, you know, I said something pretty, you know, offensive, but I didn't realize it was offensive. I told one of my friends that I was attracted to cisgender or trans women, but I wasn't attracted to cisgendered women, and I thought that was so politically correct. And she goes, no, that's super ignorant. A woman is a woman. And and I have no discomfort saying that because I fully regret it, but like, as somebody, I felt like I was so sure of myself because I'm gay, because I am the G in LGBT, that I just thought that I was, you know, pretty woke myself on it. But it was that moment, and I actually cried a lot because that moment showed me so much about what it's like to be on the other side of white on black racism. Because it's like, when people tell me things, I'm like, how could, what? Like, or, you know, when a conservative white person will tell me something, I'll be like, how did you even think that was okay to say? I was that guy. And it was like one of the biggest moments in my life, like, where it's like, my reality got shook. It's like, no, you're still learning too. Sit down, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, but before that point, a lot of my education was only from like the internet or reading like, how is this, or what does it happens when this happens? Or so I think it takes, unfortunately, those rough moments where it's like, oh, I messed up. That's why I don't like cancel culture so much. I mean, certain extent, I feel like, okay, yeah, we don't mess with that person, but if we shut everybody off the minute they make a mistake, we're gonna be in the same spot for a long time. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I'm still learning. So
are you passing that knowledge on?
Oh yeah.
You're like you said earlier, get kind of sick of being the educator. Are you educating people within your community, your Black community?
I am, especially because my family, when I come to Thanksgiving or when I come to a holiday, I'm kind of like, they want that piece, you know. How's gay America doing, you know?
Okay.
Brandon, you know, what's the special? So I'm like, I always, and I know that my family will continue and spread that information. So that's kind of like my platform, and social media, and just teaching other, because gay men, you know, obviously are great, but there's a nasty side of us that thinks we know everything. So I think that sharing it with other gay people, it's like, hey, we don't know everything and we need to listen. Like and it has been our time, and it is, I'm not saying we have all of our rights as much as we need, but like, we need to listen and educate ourselves and I don't know, just shut up for a second, because we don't know everything.
Yeah, that's so good. What a humbling experience it sounds like, that
Yeah,
conversation.
it was. I still think about it. It's one of those moments where you're like in bed and you sit up and you're like, oh, remember when I said that one awful thing?
Oh, yeah,
you know?
for sure.
And I'm like, it still makes me feel bad, but it's something.
But also, I think it speaks to, you know, that it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I was just having this conversation this week about non-binary folks and how it's okay to misgender them as long as you're trying to catch it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I have been playing a little bit of music with some people, and this gentleman chose to not use the correct pronouns for one of the people that we were playing music with. And his response to it was, well, and this is always what happens too, is the ego takes over somehow. And his response was, why do you need to make it more complicated than it really is? And then I feel attacked that you corrected me.
Yeah.
And my thought is your ego that fragile?
Yeah.
That you, first of all I hear you saying is me, I. And I just think it's such a shame because yes, it may be uncomfortable to say they or them, when you're referring to somebody who you looks like a she or looks like a he, you say they or them. It's not that big of a deal. It's a grammatical thing. It's not that big of a deal.
It's such a small, like I don't know how long, that the conversation was with that person, but
too long.
Yeah.
Too long.
Well, no, like, and my thing is, if I'm talking to, a trans person who has pronouns that are hard for me, making a big deal out of it would be so selfish because they've gone through this forever. I'm going through this for a day or 30 minutes, or it's like, of course I'm going to trouble myself to accommodate you for something that one probably took forever for you to even be able to ask, I want you to call me this, and then people struggle with it. And I think there's another side of it because I know people who like actively try and still mess up. I think where someone's heart is.
Being
know
genuine.
when somebody's like trying and when somebody just doesn't care enough or only does it when they remember. But me, right now, where we're at in America, every trans person I know that has pronouns different from what they may present as, in my head, before I even interact with them, I'm like, make sure
to ask.
Yeah, that's our duty. I feel like it's a very small ask.
Yeah,
and it is uncomfortable, like because especially with they, traditionally sounding plural, it's hard. I think that one is very common, and people who identify as they them, I feel like do understand that. But again, it's just a hard thing.
It is, and it's just the attempt at trying to do it.
Yeah,
And this is the argument. I've had the same argument with my husband when he was really struggling with the non-binary thing. I think a lot of middle-aged white men's argument is just like, this is so attention-seeking.
Yeah.
And until you are sitting with a person, a non-binary person at your dinner table, it becomes very real. Because it is very real. But the initial response is always, this is how this makes me feel.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't about you, sir.
And it's just like for a second, can you like just
take the focus off of yourself? Look beyond yourself.
Always been on white
it'd be
men.
like if somebody mispronounced my name and I corrected them and said it's actually not Tiffany, it's Tiffany.
Does that happen a lot too?
Yeah, it does. Please don't call me Tiffany.
With an apostrophe.
A hyphen in there.
Yeah.
But it's just a correction, and you wouldn't be offended by that. It might make you feel uncomfortable, listen, I have been reading on the ego for years and years and years, and it is a powerful thing. And it's sort of like, even when you like drop change, let's say there's somebody in front of you and they drop some change on the floor at the gas station. I have seen people not bend over and pick up the change because they feel embarrassed to do it.
Yeah.
Because the ego is telling them that, like, oh, you dropped that change. Or like when we trip over something, or when we stumble on a word, we make a big deal about it because we get embarrassed and the ego tells us and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I think I'm the person who doesn't pick up the change. Sorry. Because when you said that, I'm like, I've literally dropped change and not picked it up. I'm like, they're going to think I'm broke. Yeah. I'm like, I'm rich. Fuck those quarters. I'm out of this quick star.
I'm going to drop some more on the way out.
That's right. I'm just throwing my change around. But so it's, but that's the thing, is the egoic mind, it convinces us that this is somehow about us, and it isn't. No. And so you have to be able to take the focus off of you. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable, but the more you do it, just like anything, it does become more natural. My friends who are non-binary, I mess up all the time on their pronouns. I don't make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And I just go back and I just correct it or whatever. And there's just so much with that, and it's such this entitled.
That's why I think it's still
weird thing.
I don't know. It's a path that will probably be on for a while.
I think so.
I think a lot of people are next and they're one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like when and to indulge you on the whole people being like, oh, they're just looking for attention. It's so funny to me that with the Black Lives Matter thing, after came Stop Asian Hate, and then people were like, why does everyone think that it's their time now? And it's like, wow, God forbid someone's like, I see that this is working and people are responding to this movement. Now I wonder if maybe I can get my rights too.
Yeah, that would
and then
be nice.
people are like, whoa, one at a time. We're gonna take one group
Isn't that
back
gross?
the line, and then in another 5 years we'll come back to you.
Right.
But to me it makes complete sense, because it's like people are seeing power and emotion and receptiveness to it. But I just can't get with the whole, oh, everyone just wants to be oppressed thing. No, a lot of people have been fucking
There's
oppressed.
one demographic that isn't oppressed. White men.
And it sucks. And it sucks because I don't hate America. I don't want anyone to ever feel like, oh, it's just going to be years and years of people screaming they hate America. No, people just hate a certain part or not feeling safe or,
Yeah.
I just think that, it'll take a while, but it's for the better,
Yeah, for sure.
And everyone can just deal with it.
Yeah.
There's no room for anyone else,
Yeah. Suck it up.
No.
Just be freaking nice, man.
Just be nice.
Be nice. Okay, so I want to totally switch gears here because you did mention your mom.
Yeah.
And I want to take some time to talk about your mom.
The queen.
The queen. What was the queen's name?
Christina.
Christina the Queen.
Yeah, with a C.
And
she hated people who spelled it with a K.
Okay, Christina with the C. Queen Christina. So you were 12 when your mom passed away.
13.
13. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
So tell us about your mom. Tell us about her.
Oh geez, I can talk and talk and talk, and then you get me to talk about my mom, and I'm like, oof. Great person. I think the biggest memory of my mom is the creative side. She wrote published 2 books. I don't know how many she probably wrote. And I always introduce her as a writer. But just a beautiful spirit. She carried a lot of baggage. I've realized something in my grieving process lately, and it's the fact that my mom never really had anyone to love her the way that she wanted. And it hurts me because I'm like, am I ever going to have someone that's going to love me the way I want, since I've never seen it? But that's bothered me because a large part of her personality was, I'm going to give everything and my all to people who I think deserve it, and she was just such a giver. And it breaks my heart to think like that was never really fully reciprocated for her in her whole life. From my dad, their marriage failed. She was also in an abusive relationship before that. Her dad, they had an iffy relationship. She had a better relationship with my grandma growing up, but it was just like, it doesn't make any sense to me because she was always known as, so even to my aunt, like she was always known as a pretty nice person. So it kind of, that kind of bothers me, that it's like this loving woman.
So as far as like she didn't get the love that she deserved from a counterpart.
Yeah.
Okay,
find love, like romantically.
Romantic love.
Yeah, I think she had it in abundance, but she searched for that for a while,
Yeah.
I don't think it was for like validation purposes, but we all need somebody to love.
For sure.
But no, other than that, she was great, so strong. She dealt with the same heart condition I have my whole life. And I think about that all the time. Like, oh, while this was going on, she was probably in a crap ton of pain, Or like, I remember just her being sick and like talking about how all of the things that like she goes through. And it's like, you don't even know, So it's that to me, because as a kid, I didn't understand, because your mom can do everything when you're younger. She's Superwoman. But that is a part of me. Like, I realized, wow, she always had everything on her shoulders, but still remained, loyal to God, loyal to her kids, would do anything for us, and very much had to like swallow her pride at certain points a lot. And it was presentably easy for her, but I know hard for her, but she still did it, which for me is a huge, accomplishment. But
so you have the same condition as her.
Yeah.
So is it interesting in this grief journey to be feeling physically what she was feeling.
Yeah, like, or there's everyone wants to call their, I saw this TikTok. I know we just talked about TikTok where it's like calling your mom for everything. Like, hey mom, like, how do I do this? How do I do that?
Right.
And I wanted to know like what's a safe amount of ibuprofen for me to take with a heart condition. And then I started bawling because I can't call my dad and ask him that,
Right.
and I could probably call my aunt, but I just wish that I had that. Oh, I want to call my parents for this, or I want to call my parents for that. Or something that comes along with my heart condition is like chest pains, obviously. But like sometimes they're like, are they bad? Should I go to the hospital? Or like things like that where
How
I'm
to
like,
tell.
let me ask my mom who's been going through this for so long. That piece ties in, just like, oh, she's a part of me. But I also think I, in a weird way, like that I have the same condition as my mom.
Feel
like
close to her in that
yeah,
way.
like it bonds me to know that in some sort of way, I'm going to go through a piece of what she did. Like, I don't know why I feel the need to, or like that I deserve to like understand it, but it makes me feel good to know that we bond over that.
Are you the only child that
No,
has
my
it?
brother, so my mom has 4 kids, and me and my brother have it, and my aunt has it, and my grandpa has it, but we're the only ones in the family.
Okay.
So, I don't know. But I also think I'll probably be a little bit healthier than she was. There was medication that I've been taking since I was 9 that they didn't have till she was 28,
Okay. Sure.
So,
Yeah. What's the experience like as a 13-year-old boy and now as a 21-year-old man in this grief process? Like, how has it grown with you? How have you grown with it? How have you carried this?
I think how I view like grieving when you're 13 to like grieving now, it's like the physical part of your mom being gone is what hits the most. Like, who's going to be home when I get back from school, or who's going to cook dinner, or who's going to do those things, and which are pretty selfish, I might add. But now for me, it's like emotional stuff, like me wanting to learn more about myself, or me wanting to connect with my family, or questions that I can't answer, and those sort of things hurt me. And also recently settling into the fact that I knew my mom for a very short period of my life is so weird to me, because like my aunt said something to me on the phone where it just made it blatantly clear that like she knew my mom like before she was sick. So like I never really got to meet her fully.
Healthy.
Yeah, and that's kind of messed with me, because it's like to know that I didn't know her at full percent, or my aunt said like she felt like she didn't really we didn't see happy Chris. And I'm like, who says that? Like, that's my mom. You just told me that but it's real, as much as it sucks, that's real. And it's something that I have to deal with, because in my head, I want to believe that my mom was having a great time, or, but she was going through a lot. And I knew as a kid that she was going through a lot, but it's just been really weighing on me lately, like what her life was before. And my mom had twins. Me and my sister are twins, and that killed her, basically. Everything kind of was downhill from there. And I didn't think that was a piece that I really had to walk through in my journey with this until my therapist like made it evident. But I do sit with that, because my mom told me that all the time. I was a misbehaved kid, and my mom, she would, I mean, I don't think it's messed up to say, but if you knew how bad I was, it made sense. Our pregnancy, killed her. And one time she got like so upset, and through tears, she's just like, it hurts me that you can't behave when, this could have killed me. And it's like, yeah, borderline, do we say that? But like, my family wasn't all things on the table kind of thing. And if that was how she felt, that was what she was going to say. And I needed to hear it too at the time, but that kind of hurts me too, is that I put her through so much grief. And my aunt and uncle and everybody always tells me, you were 13, like kids are, but like, it still doesn't sit with me well, Like, I know I was 13, but I'm still going to have to live with that for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I don't know. I wonder, like, what would she have been a better mom to the 2 kids that she had before the twins, had she not had us,
Right.
or so that piece plays on me. And when I first found out about my mom passing away, my response was very different from the rest of my family. And I felt shameful of that. Like I didn't cry. Um, like my family kind of all dispersed and did their, I remember like my brother running up the stairs, my cousin going outside. And I just kind of sat there and I felt guilty about that for a while. But now, of course, I know it was shock and grief looks different. But it was hard for me for a while because I'm like, is something wrong with me? Because I can't tell you anything I was thinking about at all. Like when I heard it, I just, like, I don't know, blacked out or
Yeah.
I just remember sitting there and looking at the floor. That's it. And then I don't even remember when it fully like hit. I still don't think it has. I don't know if you saw the post. It's been what, almost, it was, my mom passed away in 2012. And I think, and I don't want to get into another can of worms here, but I think viewing the body, regardless of how old the person is crucial or critical to the grieving
Closure.
process. Because I made this post on Facebook the other day about how I was in the high V and I thought I heard my mom's voice. Like thinking about it, I thought I heard her voice, and like for a while, my truth was that my mom was in high V, you know? And I know maybe I'm like sick for saying it out loud, but I need that still,
Sure.
you know?
Yep.
Because I feel like my heart will always be searching for that. Thank you. Or searching for her. And I know, and it's so hard because I felt so bad when I made the post because I'm like, I don't want my family to see this and think that I resent them for not letting me, because it's a reasonable decision. I get it. I get why they made it, but fuck, you know?
Yeah. Sure.
I feel the same way. Everyone's different. You know, Tiff, you said that wasn't as big for you. For me, it was like, I've, made it no secret that like, it was very contentious with my stepfather throughout the whole thing. And unfortunately he had all the power and any of the money. So basically he could have kept me from having any type of funeral if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And I lucked out and they did cremate her, but they let me have that. And I got to spend some time with her. And it was like, a lot of people, are like, well, it's not her. She's not there anymore. And everybody believes different shit. But like, I couldn't get it out of my head that like, those were the last moments I was going to spend with my mom. Like,
Yeah.
for real, like, she's here and I'm here. And it was hard for them to pull me away from that casket, not only at the visitation, but at the funeral. And the hardest moment through all of it still, even a year later, like, was watching that casket drive off, knowing that was like it.
Yeah.
And so I get that, man. I get all of it. I get wanting to call your mom. I want to call my mom all the time. Fucking sucks. Like, it's weird too, having it still be like, there's like things that like were going on when she was still here that aren't settled. Like, I got diagnosed with diabetes like 2 months before she died. My mom was a nurse, so I totally get that. Like, if I had a question about anything,
Yeah.
she was who I called. And especially like medical stuff. And for those 2 months, she was they were putting me on this medication and what the plan was going forward, and see in 6 months and see how things are going. And those 6 months went by, and 2 months into that 6 months, my mom died. And I went to the doctor and got that news that like, oh, the medication's working. Things are going good. The first person I wanted to call was my mom.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the shittiest things for me. I totally relate to that. Is it still doesn't, like you said, like, I see pictures that aren't that old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that person doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah.
Really? Like, really?
I know. I really struggle
For
with
real?
that. I really struggle with the pictures are the hardest thing. And I know we've talked about that. But I'm so glad what you said about, for those few moments, your truth was that your mom was in that store.
Mm-hmm.
And that you still need that. And that, like, that is a bullet to my bones right there, because I feel that so much. Like I saw just a couple of days ago, I rounded the corner and I saw this young boy, teenager, tall, lanky, like freakishly tall on a scooter, and I thought for a moment it was Ethan, and I chose not to look at his face because I needed to believe that it was him right then. And I just needed it. I just, and it's like, I guess some people could say you're just punishing yourself by doing that or whatever. I need it.
Yeah.
I need to believe that he's still alive some days. It's so weird.
I think that there's a certain amount of like freakish or odd stuff that people who have lost someone only understand.
Yeah.
Like I completely get like not even wanting to look, or because for me it was when I realized that it wasn't her, where it's like this hurts even more now.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard, but also the other side of things is like I want a place that I can go like on Mother's Day or on her birthday, or had she been buried, like I could go to the gravesite or something like that and just sit down. Or there's times where everything in my life is falling down and I just want to sit and talk to my mom, or I see movies or people talking to people at a funeral site, and as small as that seems, I would love that,
Me too.
And I don't have it, but I know I can't build how I want to grieve or build how, it goes. It's just,
But you feel how you feel.
something.
That's like for me, like I don't, this guy that my mom was married to has my mom's ashes. I haven't seen them. I can't. There's not, I would love that too. I would love to have a way to feel in the same room or in the same place. And like, it's weird to me because like he kept her from me a lot during her life, and now I feel like he's keeping her from me like in death, and like that fucks with me a lot.
That part.
But also like I like to, like I was telling Kathy and Nicole last week that like while my experiences, that's why I kind of just sat back and listened through a lot of that first part, because like you guys said, like I'm part of the one group of people in America that really doesn't deal with a lot of bullshit. Obviously, I have my own personal life tribulations, but I kind of hit the lottery on the whole like.
It speaks volumes that you can admit that, though.
Yeah, no, I'm very aware of it. But like, I only have, as a person, I only have my experiences, and I can only compare my experiences in any way I can to other people's, even if they are different. So that being said, I never want people to think that I'm like, oh, dude, I totally get what you're going through because of this white dude stuff I go through, like. But like I got to go way back to what you were saying about how you felt so bad for George Floyd's family. Mm-hmm. While it's very different, the similarity to me is I was going through this crap, and still am a year later with my stepfather, that I don't feel like I was, and still haven't really mourned my mom the way that I'd like to, or have been afforded the opportunity to just focus on that, because this other shit is still hanging over, this aggressive thing is still hanging over my head. Mm-hmm. And I have to imagine that his family feels at times 1,000, because especially those weeks and months after the fact, they want to mourn their family member,
right?
But it's the most publicized thing in the country, and they're dealing with that on a daily basis.
Sorry, I don't want to.
No, that's fine.
I read like an article about like, and it was by a woman who had a son who was killed by the police, and she talks about like the stages of it, and like how she didn't like, the momentum died after the officer was arrested and fired and charged and whatnot.
And she's still living it.
Yeah. And she's still living it. But she said that's when it began, because it was so much everybody else's problem that she forgot how much it was just like, no, it's only your problem. It's like when, I had this feeling when anytime I have something go wrong in my life, and you go home or you go hang out with your friends and you're talking about it with your friends, and your friends, make you feel a certain way about it, but then you go home and have to deal with it yourself. And it's like, oh no, it's just my life, oh no, it just, as much as when I was with my friends or with other people, it felt like an us thing. And I think it's similar when people lose someone and the whole country's mourning with you. And then afterwards, it's just like, no, now you're the only one taking this shit home. Now you're the only one dealing with all of this. And then it's like another step, you
Times
know?
like a million, because we talked about, early on, we talked about how, through the whole funeral process, it's like those couple weeks or however long it is, for me, it was a little dragged out, but everyone's, oh, what can I do for you? And can I make you food? Can I, take you somewhere? Do you want to go for a drive? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to, I'm here with you, whatever you need. And then like leaving that funeral, everyone's like, okay, yep, I paid my respects and now I'm going back onto my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still very much real, for her and for me, individually, where it's just like, there's no going back.
Yeah.
It's different now. And like, I almost felt like offended and didn't know where to put that, to where it's just like, oh, you fuckers just get to, how convenient.
Yeah.
It's over for you now. And now it's just starting for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like,
I don't think people fully understand that part, like the everyone being in your face till no one's in your face thing. Also, in that period of time, like people just are saying the wrong shit left and right, because no one can accept that there's nothing right to say. The when this is all over thing, like never understanding that it's never going to be over, or just amongst a bunch of other things that people say, or the pretending like they knew the person that you lost as much as you did, or it's just a sensitive moment. But for me, the worst part is like afterwards, not knowing how to tell people that like, I'm still dealing with this, and like I need you to come back with that same energy. And I think
and
it's
you don't
awkward.
want to have to ask.
No, and I think it's awkward for people because they don't want to bring it up. People have sat in rooms with you and like, oh, do I want to bring up Ethan, or do I, And I feel like people did that so much, but I needed them to. It's like, no, please continue to check up on me, because at the end of the day, it's not like they stopped being dead.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm still going through this, and it's something that to this day I still need. It's like, ask me. That's why. And honestly, if more people asked me how I was doing, with my mom stuff, I probably would have been able to answer who was my mom. The question you asked me because I think it's become so internal to me that I just don't know how to even talk to her or talk about her anymore. Like, because it's almost a taboo, like in my family, because when we see each other, we want to have a good time because we don't get to see each other that much.
So you don't want to talk.
Yeah,
about,
it's so weird because, and I don't want to put my family on blast here, but my mom was the host person, was the
matriarch
holidays. Like she really held shit together. And when we go, and I think I've told you this before, when we go do anything at like my sister's or do things, holidays that my mom typically would have hosted, it just feels so weird. Like we're just trying to do the same things that she did. And it's like, but nobody's going to talk about it. Even though it would be super helpful to be like, hey, this turkey sucked. Not as good as mom's,
Right.
Like, even though or
like she's not even
a
present.
When the fact
situation.
is, she's so present.
Right.
Like, so,
yeah. It's just totally being
The
ignored.
reason you're not there, practically.
Gosh, that's terrible.
And I don't know. I wish more people just realize that it's a constant thing that I always will deal with. I think on like birthdays and Mother's Day, like when I post things, I think people really do have like an aha moment. Oh, like your parents are gone, but like you need check-ins at graduation when, you want to share that stuff with your parents, or life, any milestone is when I typically go through a lot of grief, because a large part of, since I did cause trouble so much in the home, I'm just trying to do better for my mom. So like anytime I do something good, I want to feel like she's still here and, seeing it. So like I want somebody to check in with me then. And I don't get it. But also another side is people think that I'm stronger than I am,
Yes.
And it's like, and I can't stop coming off like a strong person. I don't know how to do that.
I don't have a choice.
But people don't ask.
They think people, what's it take to get a phone call and like a check-in? And do I have to be blubbering on the floor? Do I have to be unshowered and in my bed for 7 days?
And it never means as much. I mean, for me, like it's like you don't want to have to like solicit it.
No.
Yes.
I feel like for me, it's like your big moments, good or bad, I feel like people truly show who they are to you in those moments the most, as
Yeah.
far as like who really has your back. You know what I mean? I learned a lot when I got married. People I thought would be there for me that weren't. People that I didn't think would be there for me that stepped it up huge. And the same coin with my mom. It's like there are people that were in my face. Like, I'm going to be here whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
And I'm going to always be making sure you're okay. And they're not.
Mm.
And it's not that I asked them to, but I didn't, you know what I mean? No one told them they had to do that and then not follow through. But then there's this one random lady who went to my church growing up. She was always a nice lady, or had a daughter my age. And, like, we all just kind of grew up in the church together, and there was no other major connection. And since then, this woman will, I would say, at least once a month, if not once every couple months, always on big moments, and sometimes just randomly.
Yeah.
I'll just get a Facebook message that says, "Thinking about you today. You know,
Yes.
I hope things are okay." And like,
Mhm. It is
even though like me or like this is just a woman who I know,
Yep.
Mhm.
but just like the fact that to know you matter,
Yeah.
and to know that what you're going through matters to somebody without them having to be reminded
Can I
of it.
ask if the person that messaged you was like close to your mom?
Not especially. I mean, friendly church-going people,
Mhm.
but she knew how our relationship. She knew what a hit that was for me to lose my mom.
Really?
I think she got that, and she had, like I said, her daughter's my age, and I think
So it was just a genuine.
maybe
"You were on
for
my
her
heart
to
today."
think that to lose, you know, her
Yeah.
daughter actually, when she was younger, had a bout with cancer.
Oh, wow.
So, which she, you know, is okay today and has her own family.
'Cause-
But that, you know, I mean, for her to have that scare of possibly losing a child once in her life, and then to see, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like, to think about her children losing her maybe, and like maybe people have them weird moments there that reflect, but at the same time, like, it takes such little effort.
It
Yeah.
really
You know what I
does.
mean? And it's like, I like the whole not wanting to tell people. It's like, if you don't really care, I don't want you to pretend to.
Right. The people that I asked that because, like, was she someone that was close to your mom? Because the people that check on me most, that like, randomly, you know, or where it's like, oh, I appreciated that you asked me. I find that are people that were super close with my mom or her, because it's kind of like the whole guardian, you know, aspect where it's like, I want to take care of my friends' kids, because I fully believe that if any of my friends had kids and they passed away, I would do the same thing.
Sure.
I would very much want to be checking up on them. And there's a woman who I feel like is the same woman to me in my life, that actually, when I found out that my mom passed away, my uncle picked us all up from school. And shout out to my uncle, because he didn't say anything in this car ride. He picked us all up from 3 different schools and just held it together, you know, while we were probably talking about ridiculous things,
This is the
foolish
day your
things.
mom died.
Yeah. But the woman, so we pull up to my aunt and uncle's house, and there's my mom's friend, a close friend, also from church, and she just darts from my aunt and uncle's steps. And so I'm like, you know what, that's weird, but I didn't pay attention. And we said hi, but I just remember it being a super quick goodbye. And now I understand she was trying to let us have like our moment. But she has been the most caring, and I don't reach out to her, to be honest, probably at all. I mean, we've had some conversations where I'm the first to initiate, but it's just pure love and pure caring for me, that she's like, no, how are you? And we all have these people that ask us how we are, and we're like, good, okay. And then we have those people that we just dish to. And for some reason, I've dished, you know, to her on quite a deep level. And I just think those people are real life angels in a way, you know, like,
I don't think
Oh,
any
yeah.
of them really fully get how big that is. That, like, to, even if we as the people going through it don't vocalize what a big deal is.
Oh,
You know, you
no.
can tell them thank you, I really appreciate it, but it's pleasantries. But I can just tell in conversation you feel the same way as I do about it, where it's a big deal.
oh yeah,
It's a
because
super big deal.
I think, and I want to talk about how, like, being your friend from an outside perspective, like when you lost Ethan, is, I didn't know how to gauge, are you covered? Do you have enough people in your corner? Because I know people love you, but I also just wanted to say something, but I had to figure out, like, is this going to be overbearing or whatnot? But I think what most people should know is that a message versus no message is always going to help.
Go with your
Yeah.
gut. Go with your gut.
Like,
every
nobody's
single
ever
time.
going to fault you for
No.
saying sorry, or
No.
because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't want to hear anything. But sometimes it's just like, I'm hurt. This person didn't say anything to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, that type of gesture is like why we're sitting here. Like, it's such a interesting. I mean, we've probably talked about it plenty, but like the day that you guys were having the memorial for George Floyd, and you guys were doing the barbecue downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, as a white male who doesn't get it,
Yeah.
but feels, like I want to be on the right side of things. It's like, how do I help?
Yeah.
What do I do? You know what I mean? It's just like, what are my strengths? So I thought to myself, like, I saw you guys were going to do like hot dogs and stuff, and I'm pretty good at barbecue. So I got a hold of Tiff, who I didn't really know that well. Like, we'd done radio together. We knew each other, but I wouldn't even say, like, we were acquaintances at best at that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to do some barbecue. I'm going to do a couple, pork shoulders, and we'll do pulled pork. I want to just donate it. You guys can let people have it. It's just like that. I thought would make me feel good. So I went to the store and I bought meat and I put it on the smoker. And 3 hours later, I got the call that my mom was in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. And that was the day she passed away. And I went through that whole day and like not knowing what to do, and it's all a big blur. And like mid-afternoon, I
I
realized
didn't know
like,
it was that recent.
I was like, I didn't get a hold of Tiff to tell her I'm not coming down with that food. She probably thinks I'm a fucking flake. So I asked my wife to get a hold of her and tell her what was going on. Of course, she was understanding. But
isn't it crazy what your priorities are in mass grief?
it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to have that thought.
You were worried about
I almost went the
meats.
next day, like I had a comedy show in Wisconsin, and they're like, it's up to you. And part of me was like, I should definitely go tell jokes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because I was a mess that whole next day. But so in that was June. Something compelled you to reach out to me. Not just once, but over and over. Like, she kept checking on me, not knowing me that well. And it was all because of her sister passing away, like almost 5 years before. And she was just letting me know, like, I've been through it. I lost somebody. I know what it's like. And for that whole summer, this like kind of friendship developed of like, I get what you're going through. I'd be like, dude, I'm feeling like this today. And she'd be like, I get it. And then got to the point where you even were doing the, like same thing. Like, you'd tell me when you were struggling with stuff, and we just bounce shit off of each other. And 3 months into like this relationship of her being like, I get what you're going through. I've been through it. I'm on the other side of the woods to an extent. Ethan passes away.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, where I was 3 months ago, she's right there. And same thing as you, I didn't know exactly what to do. You know what I mean? As your friend, I was, as especially a new friend, and it was just like,
which is so crazy, because simultaneously as we're building this relationship over the summer, over the passing of Deneen, Brandon and I are forming a friendship over grief about the social inequalities, everything. I mean, the murder of innocent Black men, and just, essentially bonding over grief in a different way. And so then when this all happened, because both of these organic friendships between me and you, Justin, and you and I, Brandon, were happening at the same time in the same space and time. And then Ethan, everything happens with Ethan, and the response I got from both of you were very similar and very perfectly timed. For me, looking at it and hearing you guys talk about it, it's so interesting because it gives me a lot of perspective on how people were probably thinking or overthinking on approaching me. What do I say? I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to. And so it's interesting to hear you say that, because that actually makes me feel like somewhat of an asshole.
No.
Because I think there were times where I did feel like people were being overbearing or being too much, but it's just what they knew how to do. And there is no wrong way to do it. And I think I need to just say that right now. There's no wrong way to support a bereaved human being as long as you're supporting them. But to sit and be silent and to not ask or to pretend that it's not happening or to not talk, please talk
Show
about
up.
talk about our people at holidays and in our space, and don't be on eggshells. Like, that is one of the most supportive ways, I think, years post.
So to go back to a little bit about, should I approach Tiff? Should I message Tiff? Also, I felt like, as selfish as it sounds, I knew that we would talk. You know?
Of course.
I knew that we would have our time, and I very much wanted it to be a conversation that you led, because also another part of this is learning how to be. It's like when, I don't mean to compare, dead people with alcoholics, but you have to be an alcoholic and hit rock bottom yourself before you can ever sponsor another alcoholic.
Right.
So I'm like, do I even know enough of my shit to go sit down and act like I know something about somebody else's, someone that they lost? Or has it been too long, since I lost someone to even be able to talk about it with somebody again? Because I hate to say it, but no, I don't. When people would come up to me and be like, oh, you lost your mom, I lost there was a point where that was just too early.
Yep.
It's like,
yes.
I know that it's
totally
bad to say, but at some point, I didn't give a
Yep.
shit about anybody
Yep.
else's person. It's like, why do you get to say that to me? So that means you're good,
Yeah, right.
And I know that's not right, but it took me a while to be able to accept that the natural part of the human race is to empathize. So when we see somebody going through something hard, the immediate thing to do is be like, oh, I've been through this before.
Yeah, being relational.
But sometimes it hurts if it's too soon.
Yes.
That's what was weird for me. It was such an interesting situation to try to. So like, she'd been there for me in a big way for like 3 months, and now all of a sudden she's like right there, and I feel like the need to like return that favor. But it was very strange to try to be there for someone going through something that I was going through simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, going to Ethan's funeral, like, was 3 months after my mom's funeral. And even though I didn't know him, like, I knew that sense of a mother and a son, not, and it was a lot.
That's crazy that you say that.
But I'm very glad I was there,
For sure.
About the mother and the son thing, because I was thinking about our relationship and how I wonder if the people we lost plays into that, because I don't know, like, I think about this, and again, this is weird, but I was like, what if the roles were switched? Like, what if you left and Ethan was still here? Like, what if I was having this podcast with Ethan right now? Or what if you were having this with my mom right now? And how similar those things are, because the relationship between, I feel like, most people, their son and their mom, it's the person that they can be the most authentically themselves with. And I think that there's something really important and pivotal of losing the person that you've been able to that knows you better than anyone else, that, has played a part in your manhood. And maybe I'm just speaking and projecting from my own experiences, but it's a unique loss, a mother and son. It's their whole, the feminine side of them's gone. It's 100% time to be a man. No one's making excuses for you anymore. I don't care how old you are. Things happen. You sob up and call your mom, and it's like, it's played a big part in my strength, really, because it's like, I don't have my mom's permission to be soft anymore. Yeah. And it's like, I have a lot of masculine energy in my family now. I mean, in my immediate life, I shouldn't even say my family, but it's like, there's a piece, there's a cushion that is like gone, now that won't be there. Like, it's literally never going to be replaced, especially with me being gay.
Right.
And I know that sounds like a joke, but it's like, the one woman that has all of my love is gone. And I really think that plays a part in the relationships that I hold with women now. Like I look at people my age, and if they are not as much of a woman as my mom, whatever that means, I look down on them,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or perfect example, I know that everybody should drink beer. Beer is great. But like my mom never drank really. So like for a while it took me like a minute to accept that like women can drink and not be like pieces of shit or slobs,
Yeah.
but just because my mother never did that. Or I saw this girl put her purse on the floor and I'm like, my mom would have killed you, like, are you a woman?
Yeah.
Just small things
Yeah.
that I associate, which are childish, but since I was a child when I lost her, it's like, these are what
She's the standard.
yeah, she's the standard. So it's like,
I get that.
it's hard to even, that's why I think I respect my brother so much, because it would be so hard for me to find love, like I'm so glad that I can find it within a man now, because it's like I would be lonely. I would be alone until I was in my late.
And I think that for me, that's one of few small comforts I guess I have, is that my wife got 9 years with my wife, or my mom and my wife had 9 years of knowing, and they got along very well and loved each other. And that's, I think, a big part of why she's, other than that, she's my wife and she's going to be there for me anyways, but she knew my mom.
Yeah.
And it was as big of a loss for her as it was for me. And I think she gets slighted a lot in that way, because it's like just her mother-in-law, and somebody, that like stigma of nobody likes their mother-in-law.
Right.
But that wasn't the case with them. And she tells me all the time, like she felt very accepted and very, like included by my mom. And so for her, it was a big hit. And she tries to be tough for me. You know what I mean? Like my grief is more important than hers or something, which isn't good. I tell her that all the time. But like, it's interesting because, like you said, you haven't found that person yet. And when you do, I imagine that will be a tough moment for you, where when you find the person you're in love with, you're like, I really wish you could have known my mom.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have that moment.
Or just even the stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Or
I hope, would my mom have liked you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get to know that.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, I get to know that.
Yeah.
Because like even outside of my love life, because I'm at the point now where I'm starting, the people that are in my life, there's more people that didn't know my mom in my life than that did.
Right.
And so I really value people who did know her, because for one, I can hear stories I didn't hear before or things like that. But yeah, in a relationship aspect, I don't know. I think it's crazy to think that like, if I get married, I'll always be like, would my mom have even liked you? Or I'm not saying I would base my whole, choice on who I want to spend the rest of my life with, but like on what my mom would say, but it would play a huge part.
It will. Yeah. We talk the same thing. Like we talk about like, I would have liked to have met Ethan, and you would have liked to have met my mom. You know what I mean? It's like, it's interesting what these people who we didn't know of each other is kind of what brought us together in a weird way.
I think about that a lot. And like you hit the nail on the head there, is like, I'm going to be shifting into a new season of my life here where, I don't know if I'm going to stay around here very much longer, or, if I do move or whatever, like where I go, nobody will know Ethan other than just what I tell them in pictures and things like that. And so that doesn't feel nice. It's
a weird space.
It is weird.
Adulthood.
But, thinking about, just our friendship and stuff. So you're 21 and I'm 40.
Yeah. And
I mean, I would never know that you were such a young man when I met you, 20 years old when I met you.
Thank you.
Just because you got your shit together, at least on the outside.
It's the trauma, baby.
Yeah,
it really ages you.
Yeah, it does. But so we can sit and we can have just these super deep, profound conversations that we do, and that I appreciate and love so much. And then I owe, after every single time I leave, or from a night just hanging out with you, I always think God, what just a special young man. Oh, young man, 21. And so sometimes I think my subconscious attaches itself to you in a mothering way, because it's like you're Ethan's
Yeah.
age, and like, and so it's just interesting how like God has kind of brought us together here. And I mean,
I
don't
think,
know.
can I really quick?
Yeah.
I think that if it's okay for somebody to lose like a father figure and somebody, because we all have people that are father figures or that have replaced, a father, and everyone like normalizes that. I think that people can replace people, not replace, I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that word, but
Substitute.
yeah, or
Yeah.
be a part timer in a certain way, and if I'm not by all saying I'm Ethan, but I've had people in my life like you that are like, I don't have a mother, but I have this woman in my life who would give me advice, and I've had conversations where I'm like, that might have been something my mom would have told me. So
Sure.
it's been as good for me as it has been for you.
It's been a mutually beneficial.
Good. I'm glad I'm
yeah.
not just mooching off.
No, same. Oh, look at it. My son. I have a black son now. That's fun. And here's my weird adopted brother, Justin. I don't know. I mean, we don't even remotely look like we could be related, but
No, why does weird have to be the first word?
oh, you got me there.
Oh, geez.
That was just me being a dick, and I'm sorry.
Hot in here.
Don't be
Forgive
sorry.
me.
Don't be sorry. Just be better.
Got it. Totally. Oh, well, I learned some stuff. How about you, Justin? Did you learn some things today?
Always do.
Yeah.
You guys are great. I'm so happy I did this.
I'm so glad.
I'm not gonna lie, I was super anxious, but the
it's
main
great.
thing I took from this is I think I'm going to try to better know how to explain my mom. I think that means something. That's what I'm taking from this.
Oh,
think
I
I'm gonna-
love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'd love to
It's unfortunate
know
that
more.
we're meeting as you're departing. 'Cause
I know.
I think we could have been good friends. Who knows? We still can be.
We still can
yeah.
be. There's
Yeah.
cars,
Right.
planes.
There's
Yeah,
cars,
what am I
trains.
talking about?
Get
We
some
can
gigs
still
in
be
Cedar
friends.
Rapids and go see this man.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Is that
Get
where
out
you're
of here.
headed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's not so far.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
Oh,
that's great.
That's very doable.
2-hour drive.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we've learned is that grief brings people together, and all
Mhm.
these friendships were formed. And so now you guys are
Universal
welcome is
sadness.
basically what I'm trying to say. It's like,
Yes.
you're welcome.
I don't mean to steal all your friends, Tiff. I'm just a lot of fun to be around. you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I'll have to add you to the Dead Moms Facebook club too. It sounds
Oh, yeah.
super.
Do you guys still meet on Thursdays?
yeah,
Oh,
like an AA meeting.
holy shit.
No, but it's really an intuitive Facebook group. It's
Oh,
nice.
you're serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh no, this is not a joke
Oh,
nor a
awesome.
promo. I'm not paid. I'm not getting paid for this, but no, it's a nice group.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I want to hear more about this at another time. But well, Justin, another
The good ones always run a little long.
they do, yeah. I mean, I'd say it was
when
a
you
home
got a
run.
lot to talk about.
Yes, we covered a lot. I learned a lot. Thank you so much,
course.
Brandon. This was
Thank you,
so. I
guys.
knew you would just come in here. You'd bring the heat. Brought
And I
some
also
tears.
feel like just kind of like speaking about like the past couple weeks is like people can like support Pride Month and stuff, and obviously that's encouraged. But I think what for me, obviously you're a little more involved than I am, but for me, I don't see a better way to understand another person's life and situation or culture or anything than sitting down at a table
That's
and
the
listening to each other.
Don't buy the gay flag or gay shirt from Target. Sit
right,
down with
yeah,
a gay
yeah.
person.
Leave the
Yes.
glitter at Hobby Lobby and just sit
Yes.
down and have a conversation.
Yes. Don't buy the rainbow
And-
Oreos that
Right.
they're spitting out just for the
Exactly,
month of
yeah.
June.
yeah, have a
Sit down and
conversation.
have a
Between the
Yes.
conversation we had with the lesbian couple last week and sitting down with you this evening, I feel I've not only learned a bunch, but I've made friends. I've maybe understand a little bit better. And I think understanding each other better is the most important thing into fixing the shit that's fucked up.
I'm with it.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
I like
So
it.
thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a
Thank you,
good. It was a
guys.
good.
This was fun.
Good time.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, just want to thank you for supporting us and listening and walking this with us. And we hope that Well, we hope we're doing something for you.
Because you're doing something for us. Or something.
Or something. Anyway, until we meet again.
Hang in there, guys.